There we go. Hopefully you can now hear me and see me okay. Yeah, I've basically had to wipe everything and set it all up again. I'm not currently broadcasting on Facebook, but I am going to send this to Facebook now. I think I know what's happened, and I need to speak to XSplit. I'm really sick of this software. I'm probably going to switch over to OBS because it started doing something weird on Friday, and I spoke to them about it. And it was broadcasting live. As soon as I hit broadcast, it started going out live. And I didn't want that. I need to control it and basically send it out manually. So I tick the manual transmission button and then it doesn't go out at all. So there's clearly some kind of problem with XSplit again, and I need to speak to them about it. I'm going to set this going on Facebook so that people who are watching it on Facebook can watch it on Facebook. That should be going out now, and if you are on Facebook, please pop a message in the chat on there. So we are starting 15 minutes late. This isn't a big problem, but it would have been nice to have that working. So Facebook live comments, yeah. Is it going to work? Is it going to work? We will see. No. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the Facebook comments for today. If you are watching this live on Facebook, then apologies, but I can't get the Facebook chat working. So Scott says he's got a Facebook notification, so it is going out on Facebook. But if you do want to join in on the comments, then yeah, please head on over to YouTube, and that's where the comments are. So here we go. Thank you very much to everybody for joining in. This is the monthly live Q&A, actually for January. So I sent a message out in the last week of January, basically saying that some of the things that I was supposed to be doing, I didn't do because I wanted to get the Tainted Grail video done. And the Tainted Grail video is done, and my computer has been spending this afternoon trying to rendering it and crashing 3 times. Nothing related, hopefully, to this live stream, but there was 10 minutes left. It had 10 minutes left to render when this stream started, and I've actually cancelled it thinking it might have been that interfering with it, which it wasn't. So I'm going to have to set it going again. And we've lost the cat pictures in the background. We need cat pictures in the background. Must set the screensaver so it doesn't... There we go, cat pictures in the background. Anyway, right, so we're here. Thank you very much to everybody for joining in. A massive thank you to all of my Patreon supporters that make this and a lot of my other content possible. And yeah, let's crack on and see how we go. But if you like the content I make, please consider supporting me over on Patreon. And thank you very much to everybody for joining in on the chat and for bearing with us through the technical difficulties. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all of the questions that I've been asked in advance. Some of these are from my BGG guild. If you are not on my BGG guild, please join. Guild number 2258. I can talk you through the process. The guild's really quiet and not many people post things on there. And I'd really like to start using it more because I see other content creators with BGG guilds and people are posting stuff all the time and starting interesting discussions. And it's just not happening on my guild. And I'm not sure why, but yeah, if you want to use that, it is there. I do want to use that a lot more. So that's BGG Guild 2258. First questions on there are from Chris Stanton. 10 by 10 challenges and the like. This is a good question for me because I do have thoughts on this. Are they a good thing because they get people playing more, or do they add pressure and make playing a chore? Both. I can see the point of them. I can see why people do them, but I have never done one myself. And the reason is the second part of that is the adding more pressure and make playing a chore. One of the things that various psychologists, therapists or whatever have told me in the past is that the word must has a lot of negative connotations. If I must do this and I must do that, it puts this unfair pressure on the brain. You should be doing things because you want to do them. Now, if you have a game that you really like that is in your collection, for example, me, loads of them, like Spirit Island, for example, I can absolutely see the point of setting yourself a 10 by 10 challenge, because then you can say, right, I am going to play this game 10 times this year because I want to. I do want to play the game more, but you've got to be very careful that you don't end up like in November going, oh, I've really got to do this because I set myself a challenge. So if you are going to do them, and I'm interested in the chat to see if anybody in the chat does 10 by 10 challenges, But that's one reason why I haven't actually done one of them myself. Right. Following on from that, he said, what about the 10 by 100 or a 1 by 100? So, sorry, a 100 by 1 or a 1 by 100. So a 100 by 1 presumably means you're going to play 100 games once, or a 1 by 100 where you're going to play the same game 100 times. Well, the same game 100 times, yeah, not going to manage that, even for quick games for me. But yeah, interested in finding out people's thoughts on that. And again, that's the that's one use for the BGG Guild. Go on and post that question there and get the opinions of people. So let's quickly go to the chat while it is still live. Can I make this bigger? I can. Quick question. So from Harry, is the Brexit will affect our community, price of board games, availability, etc., or is it business as usual? People have been asking that question now for quite a while, actually, like 2-3 years. Don't know. Still really don't know. I mean, I don't really want to get into the politics side of things because I have my own opinions on that, which are my opinions. But I believe it's business as usual for the year. Now, from a gaming rules point of view, I need to know how this is going to affect me professionally, because almost all of my clients are based in the EU, and I don't know if I'm going to have to start charging some kind of extra tax or whatever, or if I'm not going to be allowed to do what I do without some kind of, you know, I don't know. Thankfully, Mrs. Rules is a qualified full-time accountant, so she knows these things. Well, she doesn't know these things yet because nobody knows these things. But yeah, are the prices of board games going to go up? Possibly. They should. They might, because of, certainly in the UK. I think a lot of people are blaming Brexit for certain things and putting prices up and blaming Brexit, and I think that's a bit unfair. Anyway, can you tell us what games you're working on at the moment? Yes, that's going to be later on. I've been asked that question by somebody else. So, next question is from Oliver at the Tabletop Games blog. Thank you, Oliver, for all of your support. He says he's got a couple of questions. Now, a couple is 2. He's got 4. First one, other than supporting you via Patreon, what else can the gaming rules community do to support and help you? Oliver's great because basically he's trying to help me here. So obviously I mentioned at the start, I do a Patreon, which funds a lot of the content that I make, helps buy new equipment, helps scrap OBS and use other software. Not OBS, XSplit. But not everybody is in a financial position to be able to support me financially, even though, $1 a month doesn't sound like a lot, but 100 people giving $1 a month is extra kit that I can buy. But if you can't financially support me, what can the community do to help and support me? Like, share, comment on the videos, all of that stuff. If you've watched one of my videos, leave a comment on it, because the comments on the videos, the thumbs, the likes, especially on BGG, on the hotness list, and things like that, that's really important. Publishers look at them, and if they see that I've posted a video with like 4 likes and no comments, they're going to go, oh, well, that Paul, he doesn't really get much engagement. Obviously, sharing the stuff on social media, basically talking about it. That whole organic growth, I don't tend to get that on a lot of my content because not a lot of people share it or talk about it much. You know, things like Reddit. You're not allowed to post your own content on Reddit, so I don't post my own content on Reddit. The big players don't need to post their own content on Reddit because other people are doing it for them. So all of their videos get posted to Reddit, which increases their growth and their visibility, and the small people like me don't get their stuff posted to Reddit. So yeah, it's one of those things. But that's what the community can do, is like, share, subscribe, share it, talk about it, things like that. Are there any more interviews planned? Well, I've kind of put the podcast on a permanent hold because I'm doing lots of other things. But, and this wasn't planned, as of yesterday, this wasn't planned. But then all of a sudden, I am actually doing an interview with Vital Lacerda tomorrow. No, what day is it? Tuesday. Thursday. And it's going to be a live Q&A. So exactly like this, but hopefully working. I am going to be doing a live Q&A with Vital Lacerda on Thursday at this time. Talking specifically about the new version of Kanban, because the new version of Kanban goes live on Kickstarter on Thursday. That's it. I don't have any other real interviews planned. What are the upcoming gaming rules events? GridCon. Well, GridCon 2 is at the end of June. Tickets are currently sold out, More will be going on sale in the next few weeks, but only about 25 more. So if you are interested in attending GridCon, you really need to get and book those tickets as soon as they become available. Gaming Rules meetups at Essen, yes, and there will be one at UK Games Expo as well. I haven't yet worked out exactly what I'm doing at UK Games Expo. Right, back to the live chat. Yeah, Paul Bryant is in the chat. He's from Games Law, so he's probably going to know a lot more than me about what the changes Brexit is going to bring. Charlie's, any exciting games that we should be looking forward to? Yes, lots, and I'll be talking about them because I've been asked a question later on. And Kent from Icarus Must Burn said he sets goals for each year: 10 by 10, 15 by 5, 25 by 3. Wow. Designer and categories using a mix. So yeah, if it works for you, that's great. Steve is saying, no question, but the group played Kalis 1303 last week. We'd all watched the teach and playthrough video and jumped straight into playing. Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Do I keep in touch with other reviewers, Slicker Drips, Rado, etc.? In fact, I sent Rado a message earlier on today because he sent a message out and he spelled Jeff Engelstein's name wrong, so I sent him a message. Keeping in touch, it depends what your definition of keeping in touch is. There's a lot of content creators who I have spent a lot of time reaching out to, and it's ended up being a bit of a one-way relationship. So, you know, there's only so much that I can do with that. There's people out there who I support and I will always have the time for them. But it's not that I sort of, you know, stay in regular contact with them and just chat. Yeah, anyway. Right. Next. Oh, quick. Steve's new board order. Any plans for cons in the US? I assume I'm going to Origins and Gen Con. I assume so. I need to check with CGE to make sure they want me there. But the last year when I asked, do you want me there? They said, well, of course we want you there. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll be going to Origins and Gen Con. And there'll be Gaming Rules meetups at them too. Right, how are Thor and Loki? Oliver wants to know. Amazing, cute, naughty, and just, yeah, incredible. You're probably going to see Loki at some point because every hour to an hour and a half he comes in for Loki cuddles, where he just basically meows a lot or squeaks a lot and then jumps up on my lap and he's super friendly and his nose licking me and everything. So you're probably going to get that at some point. Chewy asks, how do you rate Marvel Lcg against others like Arkham Lcg? Now, Marvel Lcg is one of my favourite games of last year. I absolutely loved it. I love the what Fantasy Flight Games have done with LCGs now. The Arkham Horror Lcg is one of my favourite games, and the Marvel Lcg is also one of my favourite games that I love to play more. How does it rate? Well, it's different, and that's the thing. I like them both. If you were to say which one do you want to play right now, I'd probably go for Marvel. But I'm not sure, because Arkham has the campaign, it has characters, it has leveling up, it has a massive amount of narrative, it has a huge amount of story, and that's all really good. Marvel doesn't have that. Marvel is just your standalone game. There isn't much narrative, but the gameplay, I love the gameplay of Marvel, and I love some of the mechanisms within the game. Well, most of them. And the fact that you're going to go through your deck a lot quicker. Arkham does have the problem that your card draw tends to be slow, so you can fill your deck with guns, but get to the end of the adventure and still not have drawn your gun. Whereas in Marvel, you will go through your deck and you'll go through it quicker, and you'll probably get the cards you need. But yeah, it's difficult to compare them because they are so very different, but I do love both of them. Quick flash over to the chat. Right, nothing else in the live chat, so I'll carry on with the questions I've been asked in advance. John Sullivan says, if you were going camping or on a flight, what 3 small games would you take with you in terms of playing space required? Now I misread this. I've actually done a bit of preparation and I've actually prepared answers for these things, but I've misread that. I thought it was in space, physical space of the actual game itself. I'm just going to turn this light down a bit. It's a bit bright and it's right in front of my face. There we go. That's a bit better. He's talking about playing space. So yeah, in terms of playing space required. So the questions I answered were, if I'm going, it depends who I'm going with. If I'm going on a camping trip and there's going to be family there, or, you know, family, people who are not into games, then I'd be taking things like Wibble, Letter Jam, code names, things like that. Other type of other type of games. If I was going with a gamer, I'd be taking something like Ashes, the 2-player combat card game. If I pre-built the decks, then all you need to do is just take the decks and some counters and the dice. You don't really need much else. So that's not going to take much physical space. But back to John's question of playing space required, Ashes actually takes up quite a bit of playing space once you've got everything laid out. So, and Letter Jam, you've got to kind of sit around a table. So it would probably be something like Wibble, which does play in a small space, or yeah, I mean, small space. You could play Letter Jam on a small table. You can play Codenames on a small table, and there's also the solo or cooperative games that I've done playthroughs of recently. So Sensor Ghosts, Assembly from Ren Games, those ones. You know, you can play them on a small table. So something like that. But yeah, good question. Good question. Right, back to the live chat. Nomi's here. Thank you for joining in. Adam's here, fixing his car. Oh dear. No idea what to do with cars. Should be fun. Take it into the garage. Get them to fix it. Have I played Expedition to Newdale? Not only have I played Expedition to Newdale, I have done a video on it. So there was a video on my channel of me and Paul learning how to play Expedition to Newdale, I believe, from the rulebook, and then we played it. And since then I've played it. Have I done a solo playthrough? No, I haven't done a solo playthrough yet. I've also played it again. So if you've got thoughts, share them with us, either on Slack or on the BGG Guild. Yes, yeah. Stephen's saying, I believe he had a live play of Newdale up. Have I tried different games from Asia, China, Japan or Taiwan? I mean, yeah, Taiwan, I've played a few games from Taiwan. There's the Taiwan board games. There's Mo Ideas. I've played through a few of those. China, I'm not sure if I have. Where are the people who designed Three Kingdoms Redux based? I don't know if that's Taiwan. I think there's a lot of board games coming out from Taiwan or Korea. Might be, I can't remember. Anyway, Prodigal Son says, what are your thoughts on Amerigo or Amerigo? I really like it. I think it's an underrated Stefan Feld game. I think it was the downside of it. It was in a big box because it has the cube tower, so it was quite expensive. And it isn't a big box game. It is a standard Stefan Feld game, but I really liked it. And you're saying you can't understand the criticism this game has received. I can understand it because some people out there are wrong in this world. And it's those people that are criticising it. So there you go. Do you have any information or thoughts on the Space Corp expansion? No, unfortunately I don't. I had a bit of I was talking with GMT last year, and there was a possibility that GMT were going to come on board and start supporting me, and I was going to start showing videos of more of their games. And I was in a number of discussions, and they seemed interested in getting me more copies and me doing videos. And then I ended up chasing that up about 3-4 times, enough that I felt that I was effectively hassling them, and then I never heard back. Well, it's not that I never heard back, it was all, nothing ever came of it. But Space Corp I really liked, and I'd be keen on the expansion. Maybe I just need to drop them one more message and say, look, do you want me to do this? Because there were some other GMT games that they wanted me to cover, but then it never actually worked out. Right, Gnome says, I recently discovered you rated Summoner Wars rather low. I'm curious to hear why. I've not played Summoner Wars for ages, and there were bits of Summoner Wars that I did like, but ultimately it was dice for combat, and I found that after the few plays that I had, you can maneuver things, and I liked that bit of it, but then you just rolled a dice and you needed to roll to hit, and if you did or you didn't, the dice were a bit high for me. Do you feel that playing a game for professional purposes, review, sponsored, teach, etc., can take away from your enjoyment of a given game? I actually get asked that quite a few times, and I'm happy to say generally no, because I'm so passionate about board games. Like I went to HandyCon recently, and I had to play Cooper Island and Maracaibo because my Patreon supporters voted on as they're the games they wanted me to review. Well, that's brilliant, because they're two of my favourite games from last year. So at that point, no. Playing a game, so if this month my Patreon supporters vote on games for me to review and I go, oh, okay, and then I have to play it 2 or 3 times and I'm not actually enjoying it, then yeah, well, it won't take me away from the enjoyment of a game. If that is what your question is. I will play the game and I will enjoy it or not enjoy it no matter what. And that isn't affected by the fact of whether I'm doing, you know, a review or a sponsored playthrough or anything like that. That won't change my enjoyment of the game. Yeah. Ricky's here. Hi, Rick. Thank you for joining in. Right. An AC geek is about to go to bed. Sleep well. Do you make enough pounds to live off YouTube? I hope you do. Well, no. So how do I pay for my food on the table? How do I pay for my roof above my head? Two main ways. There's a lot of the work that I do, which is professional sponsored work. So the creation of the tutorial videos is commissioned by the publishers. The writing and editing of rulebooks is commissioned by the publishers. That's effectively my paid work. All of the other stuff that I do, this video, my reviews and everything else, that is funded purely through the Patreon campaign. I am not somebody who likes those big adverts that you have on screen when you watch people's YouTube channels, especially when that person's been paid to make a video. That for me feels wrong. If people are watching this and you go, well, I do that, that's up to you. Personally, I don't feel that is right for me to turn on that kind of intrusive advertising when it's been content that has been paid for by somebody. But yeah, that's kind of how I make my living, basically. The YouTube adverts, yeah, I mean, even if I turned them on, I'd have to get millions of views, and I don't. I like solo gaming. Would you recommend Feast for Odin? How's the replayability? I love Feast for Odin. It's one of my favorite games of the year, and I've played it about a dozen times solo. I really like it. Because I can play a solo game of Feast for Odin in about, I don't know, 20 minutes, 25 minutes or something like that. The replayability is there because you will choose different actions each time you play, and the cards that will come out will be different each time. So that will help your strategy. So yeah, Feast for Odin I really, really like. Oh gosh, lots of questions in the chat, and I've still got ones that I was asked earlier. So bear with us a minute. I'm just going to flip back to the questions that I was asked earlier on. And this is from Stephen F, who says he recently played a game from a company with some big hits, had a great time, but there were some problems with the rulebook and the player board. Information was missing or unclear, and at least one example of play in the rulebook was incorrect. So we get that all the time. Rulebooks are hard. What is the polite and appropriate way to handle this? It got me inspired to re-edit the rulebook and share it, but doing that feels unsolicited and feels like it would disrespect the work of everyone involved in the game. Right, so for a start, the last thing. Personally, I don't believe it disrespects the work that everybody involved in the game put in. If you've got a rulebook and there's errors in that rulebook, you know, and there are rulebooks that I've been involved with that unfortunately had errors in, you're not disrespecting them by pointing out those errors. You are also not disrespecting them by trying to help the gaming public out there at playing their gaming correctly. They're the ones that should be doing it. They're the ones that should be fixing their rulebook. So that really is on them. If you're talking about a rewrite of the rulebook, then I would be very careful, because you know, in 6 years' time, you might end up where I am, because that's exactly how I started. I took rulebooks that were out there and I went, this isn't very good. Here's a load of FAQ and things like that. There are polite ways of doing it, but I think you should do it. But be careful, because if you've got a game that you absolutely love and people are criticizing the game because the rulebook's bad and they're finding it hard to learn, feel free. If you're passionate about it and you like the game enough, go to that effort, but you're probably not going to get much reward unless you are trying to get a job in the board game industry, which I wasn't trying to do, but I ended up anyway. What I don't want you to do is spend weeks and weeks and weeks of your life and the publisher just go, whatever, because I've seen that happen. I know when Andy from Polyhedron Collider spent a lot of his time rewriting the whole rulebook for Martians, A Story of Civilization, and then they didn't even say thank you or give him credit for it. It's just, you know, you've got to decide if it's worth your time and if it's worth your effort to do it, or if you just want to do it as a bit of a, you know, a challenge and an experiment. But certainly reach out to them, certainly contact them and say, I like the game. I really do like the game. Unfortunately, I found the rulebook was quite difficult, and I'm working on a new one. Would you support me in that, or something like that? I don't know. Let me know how you get on. I am interested because, you know, that's kind of how I started. Right, let's go back to the chat, see what I've missed. Which game would you suggest to play that is not... that is not language dependent and has big replayability? Oh, gosh. That's not something I can answer now with everything that's going on and all of the questions. That's a good question maybe for next time. When I post on my BGG guild number 2258, when I post in advance of questions to ask me in advance, put that one on there and I will have a good think about it. Yeah, dice for combat, fully understandable. Yeah. What's that? I love cats. Well, I'm not in the studio today. I decided to have a bit of a change of scenery because I couldn't be bothered moving the computer. Actually, I should have just moved the computer because what I've done is I've brought the camera in here, I've brought the lights in here. And then I thought, what would be nice in the background rather than having a blank screen is just a picture of a cat. So I did. And it probably would have been easier just, just to move the computer. Feast for Odin is good solo without needing an out-and-out solo mode. Yes, yes, that's good. Oh, hang on. Many older games recently come out with deluxe versions. Yes, Suburbia, Castles of Burgundy, etc. If you own a previous non-deluxe version, would you upgrade yours? Oh, that is a good question. That is a really good question. It's difficult for me because I don't actually buy that many games. And it's funny, whenever I say I don't buy that many games, I don't want people to go, oh, look at him, he doesn't buy any games, he gets all his games for free. I work full time in the industry. I produce a lot of content. So it's not that I'm just, you know, some guy off the street getting given games for free. I'm getting given games by publishers to help them market their game because I will play it, talk about it, do videos, etc., etc. So it's difficult, and I've been doing this now for a few years. Trying to put myself back when I was, you know, just a gamer and I had a version of a game and a deluxe version came out. It depends how much I liked the game. If I really liked the game and I wanted to support the publisher and the price was right and they threw in some extra stuff with the deluxe and I was able to sell my old one or get rid of it to charity or something like that, then I possibly would. The problem is games are so expensive these days, and we'll talk about this later on because it's one of the questions that I got asked is about price of games, and it tends to be very, very high at the moment. Just a quick note about the volume. I'm using exactly the same setup as I do normally, and I don't, you know, on the system that I'm using here, it looks like it's a bit too loud, but a few people commented on the last live stream I did. Nobody commented during the video. Everybody said everything was fine. But afterwards, I had some comments that the volume was low. Now, I'm looking at the volume level here on my screen, and it is low. But it's set to the max. I'm also looking at the levels on my audio interface here, and I'm going into the red. So let me know. I've just turned it up a little bit. Let me know if this is distorting. Because the problem is, if I turn this up anymore, it's going to start distorting. Volume is fine. Right. Okay, volume is fine. That's good. The volume was low on the live playthrough that I did recently, and I'm not sure why. How do you like the Feast for Odin expansion? It's arrived. I have not unboxed it yet. Norwegians arrived last week, and I haven't got around to trying it yet. Oh, hang on. I've missed some messages in the chat. Yeah, this is the problem with the chat. It's refreshing too quick. Let's switch over to here. And hopefully it won't refresh that quickly. Right, where were we? Can you suggest any medium to heavy games that work well with 2 players? Lots of them. Yeah, I mean, literally dozens and dozens. Even things like, you know, Cooper Island and Maracaibo that I'm doing reviews of this week. I've played them at 2 players. Well, in fact, Maracaibo I haven't, but I think they would work. I've played Cooper Island at 2 players, and that was great. So yeah, lots of them work well with 2 players. Kayla says actually really good with 2 players, in my opinion. Some people disagree. Some people think it's awful. Underwater Cities is good with 2. Yeah. Trajan, Kanban, Great Western Trail, La Granja, all great at 2 players. Yes. Do you know, right, Harry says, personally, do you know why publishers like Alia don't put extra quality on their production quality, arts, etc.? Reason I ask, I was a bit disappointed with Castles of Burgundy. Yeah, I get what you're saying, because so many games are coming out these days with really gorgeous artwork and really good production values, and then Alia are still there with the walls of beige and really thin player boards. As to why they do it, I guess they want to keep costs low. And a lot of Alia games, I think, are still good price compared to a lot of other modern games, maybe. Do publishers try to influence your opinions by dark magic, like future contract promises or extra commissions? It would be unprofessional of me to say that, but what I would say is that I am not influenced in that way. I generally don't give my personal opinions on games that I was involved in or from publishers who are regular clients. I generally don't. Sometimes I do. You know, I think Letter Jam is an absolutely fantastic game. For example, CGE is my oldest client and I was a developer on the game, but I just can't help it. The game is just so good. But no, publishers, I mean, obviously a lot of the work I do is marketing. They are giving me a review copy of a game, or they are paying me to do a how to play video. A lot of the time that's for marketing reasons. So I can see why they would try to influence me, but they're not. I mean, I run my own convention, GridCon. Some publishers support that convention by giving me lots of product to use for charity giveaways and everything else. Does that influence my opinion of them as a company? Well, yes, as a company. Does it influence my opinion on their games? No. And I have to say, I think there are some content creators out there who are a little bit too influenced by publishers who sponsor their podcast or things like that. And it can be a bit obvious at times when every single game that publisher creates is amazing and fantastic and the best thing ever. And it's, and that publisher sponsors the podcast. So yeah, it's a bit weird, you know, I don't want to get into it too much, but you know, I'm probably going to upset a load of people by saying that, but that's just how I feel about it. When you're saying how good a game is, and that publisher is actually sponsoring you to produce your content, I don't know, that feels a bit odd. Do you think that, another question from Icarus Must Burn, do you think old school art and components will work against upcoming Alia line revival? I think it will. I think it will, because people have moved on. Andy's saying you're not sponsored by Kitty Cat. No, and I'm not sponsored by Jaffa Cakes either. Leslie's saying, may I ask if you will be working on the new Flamme Rouge box coming out later this year? I don't know anything about that. I need to go and find out about that, because I've worked on the last few, so I assume I will, but I don't know. I will go and ask the publisher right now. Well, not right now. Anyway, contest time. We're at 5:45, and I really should have said the contest. So apologies. If you are watching this live, you could win £25 worth of games vouchers from Games Law. All you need to do is send me an email. The email address is paul.grogan@outlook.com. And, right. I didn't plan this in advance. Grapes. So just send me an email with the word grapes. I love grapes. In the subject line or the body text or whatever, send me that email between now and the end of the show. At the end of the show will be a cut-off. I will then pick a random winner. Thank you very much to Games Law for providing a £25 voucher to one lucky viewer who is watching this. Flamme Rouge expansion. Do I plan to visit Tabletop Scotland 2020? Unfortunately not. I have been invited to Tabletop Scotland by the organisers. But I am having to cut down the number of conventions that I go to. I went to, I think, 16 or 17 the year before last, and I tried to cut down last year, and I ended up going to 16 because I'm now running 2 of my own conventions, which are a huge amount of work, more work than I thought, and required a lot of time. So I'm having to cut down some of the conventions that I go to, but also going away to a convention like Tabletop Scotland, you know, would be great, but that's a week away from work. That is a week's worth of work lost in terms of payment and everything else. And it's a very, very long way. So it's a day to get there, all the time that I'm there, a day to get back. And unfortunately, I'm not in really that much of a financial position to be able to take that amount of time off work if it wasn't, you know, paid for or sponsored. You know, I go to things like UK Games Expo and other ones because I'm there working. I am being paid to demo. And I am trying to cut down the amount of demo work that I do this year. But it's still a lot of time. I'd love to go. It sounds great. You know, and I know the organisers. I'm sure it would be fine. It's just the distance and the time. Right. Volume is a little loud, clipping occasionally, but not bad. Okay, volume is perfect. Maracaibo is great at 2. Does On Mars work with 2? Yes, On Mars works with 2 and is great at 2. So says Scott. Yeah. Letter Jam is great fun. Is On Mars solo good? I'm not sure yet. I'm supposed to be playing it next week. I'll be doing a live stream of me playing that next week. Leslie says, my nephews love racing games, so Flamme Rouge and El Dorado are see a lot of play. Try something like Downforce as well. I've heard Downforce is quite good. I think that's a racing game. And Rallyman just come out on Kickstarter, has been delivered. It's like a rally car game. That's supposed to be quite good as well. Paul saying, needs to work harder influencing me because I haven't mentioned Games Law every 5 minutes. No, that's true. Can you repeat the email? paul.grogan@outlook.com. And grapes in what language? Any language, as long as it's the word grapes. That was my next question from Andy. What's my favourite fruit? Well, I do like grapes. Whether they're my favourite fruit? Yeah, they probably are. I just really like grapes. Right, okay. Tabletop Scotland is a weekend. Right, it's a weekend, but it's a day to get there and a day to get back, and I'd probably go on the Friday as well. What do you think about the price and the value of board games recently, says Harry? E.g. Nemesis or Tainted Grail is around $400 or $500, which is insane. Well, I went all in on Tainted Grail. I went all in with the all-in pledge, and it was £158 delivered. So I'm not sure why it's $500 or $400 and $500, unless I'm missing something. I mean, I know there are some games out there where when you go all in, like Conan and Batman and things like that, that are $400 or $500, but I didn't think Tainted Grail was. PowerFade11 says, first question, which older games, if any, do you really want to play again? And you said Noria, Magnastorm, La Granja, Nusfjord. When you say older games, they're only like, well, Magnastorm was last year. Noria, I enjoyed it at the time. I wouldn't go out of my way to play it again. Magnastorm, I think, is underrated, and I would definitely want to play that again. La Granja, I really liked, and I've not played that for a while. Nusfjord, I liked it. It was okay, but I think Feast for Odin is better. Gnome says, will we ever see a solo playthrough of Mage Knight? Possibly. What I'm going to do is my Patreon supporters are going to vote each month on what game they want me to review in the month. I will put Mage Knight onto the list for them to vote on next month. In fact, let's do it now. Let's do it right now. So, where's the spreadsheet? Where is the spreadsheet? Is that the spreadsheet? I'm going to do it right now while we are live. So what I'm doing is I'm collecting a list of potential review games and potential solo games, and then these games get given to my Patreon supporters and they vote on what they want me to review, what they want me to review and what they want me to do a solo playthrough of. So there we go. I've added it to the list. It will be up to them. David's back to work. Thank you for joining in. And right, okay, back to the questions that I've had in advance. Thank you very much to everybody for joining in. It's a very active chat today. Paul Bryant says, the last 5 to 10 to 20 years have been a whirlwind of new games, mechanisms, video rules, presentations, etc., etc. Yes. What do you see as dominating the next 10 or 20 years? I haven't got a clue what's happening tomorrow. Where is the industry going? I don't know. Will the rate of change reduce or increase further? And will there be an increase in quality and innovation or a race to mediocrity? Well, I've been saying for the last 3 years or so that I think Kickstarter is overdue a slowdown. And then you see all of the games going on Kickstarter that are still doing really well, that still have expensive price tags and still with lots of fancy minis. So I don't think it's slowing down at all. I think the quality is increasing overall. I mean, you will get some issues, but I think artwork, graphic design, production quality, I think they're having to, because they're trying to market their game, and the bling in the game is what attracts people to it. So I think quality is definitely going up. When you look at the miniatures for Tainted Grail that I got, I mean, Vicky, my partner, who's not into board games really, she was drooling over these miniatures because they are so amazing. They're so detailed. So I think quality is going up. Quality of games, I certainly don't think it's going down. You know, I've recently just done a review of Cooper Island, and the Cooper Island, the graphic design is impeccable. The rulebook is fantastic. The gameplay is great. So I think there's still a lot of great games coming out, but there's a lot of rubbish coming out as well because people are just going on Kickstarter with a crazy idea that isn't very good. Where do I see the industry going? I don't think it's going to slow down. I think it's just going to carry on where it's going. I think we're going to have more technology. I think we've got a couple of games coming out. We've got Beyond the Dark Tower, and we've got Beyond Humanities. We've got a few games coming out that require technology, so either apps or physical electronic equipment or something like that. People are doing fancier stuff with it, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see where we are in 5 years' time. I don't know. I just think it's probably going to be more of the same. Desktop background. Let's wiggle the mouse a bit. There you go. I just went on to Google and said cute cat picture, and it came up with that. Scott Hill says, disaster. The notorious Devon sock thief has stolen all the socks in Columpton. What games do you play with the distraught residents to help them through this difficult and worrying time? So for those people who don't know, Scott always asks me a sock-related question every live Q&A, and thank you very much because they're always funny. What game would I play with them? Well, I've actually got my own game. It's a re-theme of This War of Mine. So it's got the same dark, gritty survivalness, is that a word, of This War of Mine, but it's all about getting your socks back. So there you go. I would retheme This War of Mine, and I would play that with them, so that then, yeah, hopefully that will help them. There you go. Brendan says, a couple of quick questions. Which games are coming out this year that I'm most excited about? And which games are you working on this year that you're most excited about? So going back to the questions that I was asked in the live chat earlier on today about what games are coming out that I'm most excited about, that's why I was delaying it, because I wanted to wait until I got to this question. And this is the thing. This is another question I get asked a lot, and unfortunately my answer to this is the same as always. I haven't got a clue. I really don't know what's coming out this year, because I'm so embedded with all of the games that I'm working on and the publishers that I'm involved with. I don't really know what else is going on, which I'm great. So, for example, this afternoon, I thought I want to answer this question properly. Let's look through some other people's lists. So I went on to Rado's top 25 games that he's looking forward to in 2020. 4 of them I'd heard of. 21 of his games in his top 25 games that are coming out this year, I'd never heard of. And that just shows how much I am out of the loop with what's going on and what games are coming out. I am mostly unaware. I'm glad that Brendan followed it up with a what games are you working on that you're excited about, because I know far more about the games that I'm working on. So for example, I've just played the new Time Stories. Time Stories, the blue box, Time Stories Revolution, a completely new system. And I've just played scenarios 1 and 2. 1 is out, the Hadal project, and I've played scenario 2 because I'm testing it. I love Time Stories before. I love the new one better. It's changed quite a lot. You're no longer repeating things. You no longer have a time track. It's now more like a puzzle adventure escape room style game, which are the kind of games I love. So I'm very excited about all of the new Time Stories ones that are coming out. I'm involved in them. I'm going to be testing them and helping edit the text. But I really like those kind of games myself personally. There's a new version of Hansa Teutonica coming out this year, which is a good game. There's a new version of Rococo coming out, which I've never played the original one, and I've always wanted to. Perseverance from Mind Clash Games. Mind Clash Games have done Tricerion, Anachrony, Cerebria, What else have they done? Are they the big three? I think they're the big three. So Mind Clash Games produce these big, meaty, complex, heavy Euro games with just beautiful artwork and produced really, really, really good production value. And the gameplay is great. Perseverance is a game that I've known about for about 3 years. David Turtz is designing it. I'm super excited about it. And I'm going to be involved in it, I hope, in some way. I actually had an email from them this week that Victor and Richard are contemplating coming round to Gaming Rules HQ to film a video for Perseverance. Super excited. So it's hard for me to distance myself as a gamer and my work, because I'm not doing my work in order to just make money and make a living out of it. I am so passionate about games. I love games. So the fact that the designers might be coming round to my house to do a video on it is like, well, that's exciting for me personally as well as professionally. There's some new Cloudspire stuff coming out this year. Cloudspire is fantastic. One of my favourite games of last year. And there's some new Cloudspire stuff coming out. There's something new coming from What's Your Game this year. There's stuff coming from CGE that I can't talk about, but I'm excited about it. And I would have been excited about it if I wasn't involved in it. And there's apparently a Flamme Rouge box coming out this year. Right, I'm going to go back to the live chat. Hopefully that's answered that question. Probably not as good as I could have done, but I tried. Right. Right. Emma's saying best desktop background. Yes, more cat. Very disappointed in Loki. It's been an hour and a half since his last cuddle. Loki! Cuddle time. We'll see if he answers. He normally does. Have you seen about played Beyond Humanity Colonies? Yeah, I mentioned that just earlier on. In fact, I need to send them an email because it was agreed during the Kickstarter campaign that I would be doing some kind of video for it. And I need to just go back to them and say, right, when am I going to be doing this? So yeah, I know about it. It looks incredible. It just looks absolutely amazing. And I don't know if it's going to work or not, but we will see. The Dark Tater. My eyesight's going. Thanks for all your rules videos. So well done. Thank you very much. Picking up your copy of On Mars today. Looking forward to see what you have for Kanban EV. I currently don't have any work planned, apart from the rulebook for Kanban, which I'm working on actively. I don't have any video planned for Kanban. I assume I'm going to be doing one, but it hasn't been agreed yet, so I need to ask that. Jeff is saying, prices are more than fair, in my opinion, as value for dollars with entertainment. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if we're talking about cost of a game, so Cloudspire, right? Cloudspire, if you were to buy Cloudspire, I think it's like $130. And some people are like, oh my God, $130. I'm not going to pay $130 for a game because that's too expensive. Well, first of all, the amount of content, physical content you get in Cloudspire is great. The amount of playability content you get. I mean, I've played it. How many hours have I played Cloudspire now? 10, 20, 25, 30. I've had 30 hours of play of it, and I have scratched the surface. I played one solo scenario out of a thick book. I have played none of the cooperative scenarios, and I've only really played one or two of the factions, right? So I've got 30 hours of play for $130. What's that? $4 an hour? And I have just scratched the surface. I've got hundreds of hours of play in Cloudspire. So yeah, games are expensive. And sure, would I pay $130 for a game like Cooper Island, when I'm probably, even though it's a great game, I'm probably only going to play it 5-10 times. I'm probably going to get about 30 hours of gameplay out of it, and then I'll have moved on to other things. Whereas yeah, Cloudspire, massive amount of playability in that. So Dora says, yes, love my videos, keep it up, thank you. What are your thoughts on Mars? Do you still play? Well, I can't really give my personal opinion on Mars because I was the writer and the editor of the rulebook. I helped develop the game. I did the rules video for it, which was a professional piece of content. So it wouldn't be really right of me to give my personal opinion on the game since I was so involved in it. Do I still play the game? I'll be doing a solo playthrough of it next week. What do you think about player interaction and strategy? So for me, On Mars has a good level of player interaction. Some people say it's got no player interaction at all. It does, but it's very subtle, and you got to watch what people are doing, what people are building, what they're planning to build, because you can scupper them by building the thing ahead of time so that they don't get the bonus from the LSS, and the scientists. The way the scientists work together with the upgraded buildings, you've got to watch out for that. Ben says, question, if you were to go back and redo a review, either retract a recommendation or recommend something that you didn't, which game would it be? That's another good question for my BGG guild. I can't answer that right now. Because I want to think about it. I want to go back through some of my older reviews. So yeah, if somebody wants to start a thread on my BGG guild, 2258, of unanswered questions from this week's live Q&A, and somebody put that in there. Ben, if you're not on the BGG guild, go on there, guild number 2258, and post new thread, unanswered questions from the live Q&A. Put yours in there, and I will answer that question at some point. Even if it's, I've gone back over them, and my opinion is exactly the same now as it was then. But I do want to answer that because it is a really good question. Andy said he had a phone call and heard on the way back that you mentioned this war of mine. Bargain second-hand price. Yeah, I mentioned it in an answer to Scott's question about people feeling despair because they've had all of their socks stolen, and I thought, what's better than that, than a game about, death. Harry says, on the top of your head, top 3 best games because of their rule books are well written. Cooper Island, Great Western Trail, Mombasa. There's one. I mean, they're the 3 that come to mind because they are all great, and it's the same person, I believe, that's responsible for all 3 of them, a guy called Victor. But there are so many good rule books out there. Russian Railroads, I really like the Russian Railroads rule book, and some people don't. I mentioned earlier on, some people on the internet are wrong. But no, Russian Railroads rulebook's really good as well. Scott says, are you editing the Rococo Deluxe rulebook? I am having no professional involvement with Rococo. I would have liked to, and I might still. I don't know. I need to ask Eagle Griffin, but they said at the moment there isn't any scope for any involvement. So I've had nothing to do with that at all. What are your favourite TV, Netflix, Amazon and other shows? Yes, a non-board game related question. We finished watching His Dark Materials last night, which I thought was fantastic. His Dark Materials, BBC production, I believe, really good. Really enjoyed that. I'm starting to watch more TV. We're going to be watching the first 2 episodes of Picard tonight. I've already watched the first episode. That's really good. I've liked the first 2 series of Arrow. We haven't watched the rest of them yet, but I've heard that goes really downhill. Loved the first 2 series of Daredevil. Haven't watched any of the other ones in that series. Yeah, trying to think. They're the ones I'm watching at the moment, although I have started watching Miami Vice while painting. I don't know why. Raymond's here in the chat. Thank you, Raymond, for joining in. Does it bother you that you can't play all the good games coming out? Yes, it does in a way. It bothers me, but I don't get like really bothered and angry about it because there is nothing I can do about it. I play as many games as I can in the time that I've got, and if I could have more time and play more, I would. I mean, and there's good games sitting in my collection. That bothers me a bit more. I've got great games in my collection. I've got 100 games that I could point to in my collection that I will say, never say no to that, never say no to that, never say no to that. Yet they're sat there and I haven't played them in years. It's just how it is sometimes. Do you think they will make any more expansions for Mage Knight? I'm afraid not. I don't think Vlad is going to do any more, and I'm not going to do any more, so I don't think they will. Matt has popped in. Hi, Matt. Thank you for joining in. In the chat, it said just popped in. And Johnny's here as well. Thank you very much, John. Have you talked to Ricky Royals? Yes. So I know Ricky. I've known Ricky for a few years. You want me to collaborate with him? I keep inviting him round. Okay. I've been inviting Ricky round to my house to do a video together for about 2 years. So please drop him a message and put pressure on him from another angle to say, hey, Ricky, why don't you collaborate with Paul Grogan and go round to his house? And I really want to, because we like the same sort of games and I'd love to do that. And we just haven't done it. Thor and Loki are really well. Thank you very much. Yeah, everything is good. Thor's being naughty and trying to get out of the cat flap, even though it's locked. And Loki's having a lie down somewhere. Leanne's here. Hi, Leanne. Thank you for joining in. The chat and questions are going on in Facebook, but you are only answering stuff in here. Yeah, unfortunately, the Facebook live chat window did not work. I can spend another minute just to try and get it working again. But yeah, I did mention this at the start, in that the Facebook live comments is there, and it's not working. And if I'm trying to authorize it, and it's saying some permissions needed by XSplit were not granted. Continue anyway. Oh, let's continue anyway. Ah, there we go. Right, the continue anyway didn't look like it was there. So the Facebook live chat is now on screen, but there's no questions on there. So yeah, unfortunately for those people watching this on Facebook, I couldn't get the Facebook comments working at the start, so I said, look, sorry. But as I mentioned, guild number 2258 on BGG, go on there. Hopefully somebody is going to do a thread and say unanswered questions from this week's live Q&A. Put them in there and I will go in and I will answer them. Johnny's saying, why am I in a cloakroom? I'm not in a cloakroom. I am in my office, but I've covered over, there's a load of cables hanging down on the wall and it didn't look very good. So I've covered it over by stretching the curtain out. There you go. Caroline is saying, do you watch the Umbrella Academy? No, I've never heard of that. But if it's worth checking out, I'll have a look at that. And Geeky saying, yeah, Umbrella Academy on Netflix is excellent. Okay. Fabricio is saying, do you have any Gloomhaven upgrade pieces? Yes, I've got some that Patrick Olmsted, friend and Patreon supporter over in the States. He's got a 3D printer. He printed loads of 3D bits for me, which was very good. Cassidy's in as well. Hi, Cassidy. Thank you for joining in. Yeah, we've had loads of questions in the chat. Just scroll up. Random questions. Nigel Graves is here. Hi, Nigel. Thank you for joining in. Do you know if they have tweaked the 2-player rules for Tungaru? I believe Richard Ham said they needed some attention. I think so. I'm not I'm not sure. I mean, I've worked on the rulebook for Tungaru, but I don't know which rules specifically were Richard's suggestions. So yeah, I'm not sure. The final rulebook is almost done. We did version 8 yesterday, and the graphic designer is about to make some tweaks and make version 9. Cisco's here as well. Sorry you're late. No problem. You can rewind and watch the rest later on. Have you watched Peaky Blinders? I haven't watched Peaky Blinders, no. I've seen it advertised a lot, but I've never actually watched it. What's your favourite traditional English food? I don't really like English food that much. I'm more about Mexican, Italian, that kind of food. So yeah, English food. I mean, we go for a carvery now and again at the local pub, and I do like that, and I guess that's pretty much traditional. Andy saying Ricky Royal versus Paul Grogan. The solo king takes on the new soloist. Yeah, I could get Ricky round and we could both play solo Cloudspire on the same table at the same time. That would be cool. What is a cloakroom? Says Gnome. A cloakroom, it's literally a room where people used to hang their cloaks. So it's an old name for something. What it is now is it's, you know, in theatres and stuff like that, it's a place where you go in and you give your coat to somebody. They will hang it in a cloakroom and then you'll collect it at the end of the day. And it does look like I'm in a cloakroom because of the curtain. And people are recommending Umbrella Academy, which is good. Ragnarok on Netflix. Never heard of that either. Right, okay. Any tips for a first timer attending Essen, assuming I've been before? I've been 20 times to Essen. So yes, Luke, I have been going to Essen for 21 years now. So I have a lot of tips. Probably too many to list here because we've only got about 15 minutes left of this show and I've still got some other questions to ask. Again, good question for the BGG Guild, possibly its own thread, because then you're going to get help from other people as well. So yeah, go onto the BGG Guild, Luke, and post a first time tips for Essen because I do have lots. Will you be at Aircon? Sadly not. I can't make Aircon this year. There's a lot going on in March, and straight after Aircon, I'm away in the Czech Republic for a week. And then the day after I get back from the Czech Republic, I'm away in Portugal for a week. So yeah, there's just no chance I was able to fit Aircon in this year. Right, back to the questions that I was asked beforehand. Now the Facebook chat is up on my screen, but nothing is appearing in it. So if you are watching this on Facebook, please pop a message in there now to see if it does actually appear on my screen. Right, questions that I was asked in advance. We have a few left. Brett says, what's your currently most eagerly anticipated game? I refer back to my comments about the fact that I don't really know what games are coming out this year. No, I've no idea. I don't even know what's coming out in the next month, let alone the next 2 months. And I'm involved in a lot of them. Yeah, so I'm not sure. Not sure. Ian Sutton says, when doing a playthrough video, what is the typical sequence of events from the game box arriving to the video going out? And how long do these take on average? Now, I could talk for 10 or 15 minutes about this. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to answer Ian's question, and I'm going to tell you the process for a playthrough video, right? Which is specifically different from a how to play video. So my tutorial videos, where it's just me teaching you how to play the game, that is a how to play video. I have a separate process for them. My playthrough videos, and I'm going to talk about the live playthrough videos that I do. And I have two types of live playthrough videos. I have the ones which are sponsored by a publisher, where they've given me some money for me to do a live playthrough of their game. And I'm doing one of them tomorrow, King's Vortex, or King Arthur's Vortex Chess. I'm doing it at 5 o'clock tomorrow. And that is sponsored. The publisher has paid me some money to do a live tutorial and playthrough of their game because it's going on Kickstarter and they need some extra, they need a rules explanation. And I'm doing I'm doing a few sponsored live playthrough videos. So I get the game, I unbox it, I learn how to play. If there are any rules that are unclear, I will go back to the publisher and I will ask. I will then get some friends round and I will play through the game, possibly in a private live stream with the designer and or publisher there watching as we play the game. Because then if we get anything wrong, I want him to tell us about it, him or her. I want them to tell us about it at that point. I said him because tomorrow it's a him and I've got that in my mind. So they will give me the advice in a private live stream, me and my friends playing the game, to make sure I get it right. And then when I do the actual live stream, the rules will be correct because I've already practiced it, I've learned it, and it should all be fine. So that's generally my process for the sponsored ones because I'm being paid for it, so I take the work seriously. For the ones which are not sponsored, which I'm doing a lot of, unfortunately, and as I mentioned last week, I am not able to put in all of that time and effort for something which is not sponsored. Now, the ones which I'm doing as part of the Patreon campaign, which Patreon supporters have specifically requested, I'll put more of an effort into them. But some of my videos are literally, I've just read the rule book and here we go. And if you compare them to the ones that are sponsored, hopefully you'll notice a difference. But this is why, and I'm saying this now because I've actually taken some criticism in the last month or two. And some people have said, oh, we watched one of your live tutorial videos and it wasn't very good. And you didn't really know the rules very well. And it's like, well, yeah, because I wasn't actually paid for doing that video and I did 4 in a day. I'm producing lots of content. In fact, the rules were fine. It's just they weren't tight, you know, because I hadn't practiced it. I hadn't spent a whole day scripting it. So yeah, what I could do is I could only do tutorial and playthrough videos that I've spent a whole day preparing, practicing, scripting. I could do that and they'd all be great. And I would be producing a lot less content. And obviously money-wise, I'd be a lot worse off. There are other content creators that do live tutorial and playthrough videos. They make a lot more money on Patreon. I'm not saying this as any kind of jealousy or anything like that. I'm just saying they make a lot more money on Patreon than I do. So they have the financial ability to take their time over it, which I don't have. Anyway, that's the process. How long do these take? It really depends on the game. It really does. For tomorrow's game, King Arthur's Vortex Chess, got the game, learnt the rules, half an hour, asked a couple of questions, did a live playthrough with Paul, with the designer watching, about an hour, prepped the studio, practicing that. So the whole thing is probably about, I mean, you're only going to see a 45-minute to 1 hour video, but the amount of work behind that is probably about 4 to 5 hours of work with all of the stuff that goes along with it. Ian also wants to ask what my favourite pizza toppings are. I love barbecue chicken. So yeah, barbecue chicken, sweet corn, peppers, things like that. Right. Have we got any message on the Facebook chat? Yes, the Facebook chat is there. Clara says, I am most excited about Tranquility from Kickstarter. Have you come across it? Well, Claire, I'm actually doing a how to play video. So yeah, I don't know if you are a backer, but it was mentioned as part of the Kickstarter campaign that Paul Grogan is going to be doing a how to play video. Unfortunately, there's been some delays with the production. I did have this in my calendar for next week. It's been delayed to the week after, and now it's been delayed even further. But I do know about the game, and I am going to be doing one of my how to play videos on it. So there we go. Yes, thank you very much for that question. Back to the questions. Oh, don't forget, send me an email. You got 12 minutes left. paul.grogan@outlook.com. Send me an email. Subject line grapes. Love grapes. Or just I love grapes. Yeah, and you might win £25 worth of games vouchers. If you are a patron supporter, please mention that in the email as well, because you'll get 2 entries into the contest instead of 1. Should have mentioned that earlier on. Right. Where are we? I'm going to go to the BGG Guild tonight, and there's going to be loads of questions, which is great. As I say, BGG Guild, want to make more use of it. Guild number 2258. If you join, make sure you subscribe. If you don't subscribe, you'll never see any messages in there. Don't worry, you're not going to get flooded with notifications, but please join and then subscribe to the guild, and then you'll get the notifications, and you can join in with the conversations. Right, JGV says, quick question, is Rococo a good to have if you are a fan of heavy board games such as the ones from Vital Lacerda? I don't know. I've never played it. I know it's not as heavy as Vital Lacerda's games. I think it's a medium weight game. I've only heard good things about Rococo. So this is why it's a game which I really want to play myself, because I've heard so many good things about it. So if you're a fan of heavy games, it might be too light for you. I don't know. I mean, I like anything from light to medium all the way up to heavy. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. John Benjamin says, do you watch WWE? No, I don't. I have no interest in wrestling or anything like that, I'm afraid. I did watch the Super Bowl. I really, really want to get into American football. It seems fascinating. It's just so confusing, and I don't understand it, but it looks fascinating. Yes, Scott, you'll see me at GridCon. Victoria says, went onto Facebook and people are trying to comment. Yes, so yeah, the Facebook comments are now working. I've had all sorts of technical issues at the start of today, so apologies for that. Cisco says, are you doing the space-based rulebook? Right, no, I'm not doing the space-base rulebook. I'm doing the space race rulebook. So Space Base is a different game, but there is a game called Space Base. But I am doing the rulebook for Space Race, which is actually a board game version of the card game, because there is a Space Race the card game that's already out, but there is a new game coming out called Space Race, and I am doing the video for that. That is in my calendar for later this month, in fact. So yeah, I'll be getting that. Do you play Zelda games? No, I have not played any of the Zelda games. I'm not really a console person. I do like the occasional computer game, but I've never really had a console. I had a Nintendo 64 back in 1997, and I had GoldenEye for it and Mario Kart, but that was it. I'm not really a console person. Johnny's saying, don't do that, Paul. Put a thing on the front saying whether it's paid or not. Well, I do. Yeah, all the videos which I do which are sponsored, it actually says at the front that it's sponsored, I think. But I try to make that clear. Any video that I do that isn't sponsored, I do say that at the start of the video. I say, this is not a sponsored video. Thank you very much to all of my Patreon supporters. And if it's a sponsored video, I will say it's a sponsored video. Just want people to know that I go to a lot more effort with the sponsored videos. Caroline is saying, remind us to explain American football to GridCon. Excellent. And I really want to play a proper, decent American football. There's a guy I know who's a friend of mine, Ian Hayward. And I've known him for 20 years now. He's a Patreon supporter as well. Thank you very much, Ian. And I never forget, but I say I never forget. I have a memory that you played an American football game, and I think Richard Klein played one as well. And it's supposed to be really good. Pay Dirt, is that right? Yeah, kind of want to. I just really want to understand it because it just seems absolutely fascinating. Right, Geek is saying, do you think the advances in AI over the next 10 to 15 years will impact game design or the board game industry? For example, using an AI to playtest. That's a really good question. I think if I said no, that would be silly. I think I mean, I'm not fully aware of the advances in AI, but if there are a lot of them, then yes, it would be crazy not to use them for board game design. We should be using them probably for, you know, fixing world hunger or something like that. But, you know, board games, yes. Doris wants to know, how does a typical working week look for you? And what are you doing in your free times and at weekends? Well, this year is the year where I'm going to try and get my life back on track. And I'm actually going to have some free time and weekends. Yeah, for 4 years, my life's been a total mess. But let's not go into that now. Let's talk about positive in the future. A typical working week, it really depends on the week. Last week, for example, is so different from this week. Last week was get up, work on the Tainted Grail video for like 9 hours a day, whilst doing other bits here and there. A bit of a rule book, talking to clients continually, messages, oh, this needs doing, that needs doing. Next day, another 8 or 9 hours on the Tainted Grail video, whilst doing loads of other bits of stuff as well. This week, I'm not doing any how to play videos. This week, I did a review yesterday, which went live this morning. I've been planning a load of stuff today. I've been planning the Maracaibo review. I've been planning this. I've been doing, I had a lunch break today and did a little bit of house jobs. I haven't really had a lunch break in like 5 years. So I really need to do that. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing the other review of Maracaibo, getting that finished, getting that filmed, edited and done. I'm also doing a bit of work on the Kanban rulebook tomorrow. I have another piece of rulebook work to do tomorrow. I'm doing the live stream tomorrow of King Arthur's Vortex Chess at 5 o'clock tomorrow. So if you're interested in that, 5 o'clock tomorrow on this channel, if it works. What else? Yeah, then Thursday. Oh, then I've got the Games Club on Wednesday night. Yeah, it really depends on the week. This week is a very bitty week with lots and lots of small projects. Sometimes a week will be mostly one big project. So yeah, it really depends. I have a big spreadsheet calendar and I have multiple things going on at one time. Raymond is saying Rococo is medium and excellent and the theme surprises people. Yeah, I've heard that the theme's good. Kim Simmons is here, wanted to stop by and ask, how are you doing on this splendid day? I'm doing good, thank you very much. Yeah, and thank you for your how to play off brass. Excellent. Yeah, really happy with the brass video and thank you to the people who helped me out with that. Because there's one thing about the brass Lancashire video which is different from every single other how to play video that I have done. There's something very special about that. I never actually played the game before doing the video. Most of the time I play the game 2 or 3 times. I learn it, I learn how to teach it, and I practice it and everything else, and then I go and write the script. And for Brass Lancashire, I didn't do that, and I still haven't played it to this day, which is really weird, but it just never happened and it didn't come together. Thankfully, a number of people helped me out, Graham Charlton for one, and a few other people. I wrote the script for it, and they looked at the script and they corrected a couple of bits and said, oh, I think you should focus on this bit here, and I did. So that video was actually created without me having played the game. Glad it was really useful. Really happy with that. Will you be doing any work on the new Tiny Towns expansion by AEG? My relationship with AEG is a little bit up in the air. I used to have a very good relationship with them, and I'm now not hearing back from them with my emails and my contacts, so I don't really know what's going on with AEG, so I assume I won't be involved in that one. Right, Raymond says, last few years there has been a lot of quality, heavy-ish games. Yes, there has. What are your thoughts on the need for as many quality medium games, e.g. Tiny Towns or Crown of Amara? Well, I wouldn't say Tiny Towns is medium. I would say Tiny Towns is probably light to medium. Crown of Amara, though, yeah, I think there is a need for as many, if not more. Because as the hobby grows, more and more people are getting into the hobby. More and more people are going to be getting into the hobby through the lighter games. So if there's lots of heavy games, that's great. And lots of heavy, good quality games, that's great. But there also needs to be there needs to be a lot of good quality medium weight games like Crown of Amara, Rococo and things like that for those people who want to get more into the hobby without jumping straight to heavy. So I think we need quality games on all ends of the spectrum. We need the good ones at the beginning level, like your Tiny Towns and your Barren Parks and your Just Ones and things like that. And we also need the ones at the heavy end. Were there any questions that I got asked in advance which I haven't answered yet? Oh yeah, we've got a few. Right. Let's It's going to be running late. Richard, he's very new to the board gaming scene. This is from the Board Game Trading and Chat UK Facebook group. Thank you, Richard, for your comment, and welcome to the board gaming scene. I've been here a while. 35 years I've been onto the board game scene now. Please would you enlighten me on how the second-hand market prices are arrived at, as it doesn't seem to follow my experience of other second-hand markets. And I already replied to Richard and said I'm not really going to be able to answer that question because I don't really do much of the whole second-hand markets. The games which I have, which are old, the games which I have which I don't want anymore, I put into the charity raffle. I don't try and sell them. So I don't really know. So yeah, I don't have much experience with the second-hand market, and I don't really buy that many games on the second-hand market. But it's interesting that you're saying that being relatively new to board gaming, it doesn't fit with your experience of other second-hand markets. So I'm interested to see why it doesn't fit. What I will say is that there are certain games out there which are out of print, are a bit of a grail game and are quite rare, that you will end up paying quite a lot of money for. So I'm trying to think, what's the game? Gingopolis. Gingopolis was going for a lot of money. The expansion for Pillars of the Earth was going for a crazy amount of money because it was rare, it was out of print, and people couldn't get it. The new version of the old... what's the game? There's a game which I have an old version of, which I was considering selling, and then a new version was announced, and I thought, rats, why didn't I try and sell my old version before it came out? Because then I got quite a bit of money for it, because it was going for like £150 or something. And then the new version came out. I can't even remember what it was, but there was a game that I have that I've got the first version of, and now it's like, well, nobody's going to want the old version now because the new version's coming out. Anthony March says, do we have enough metal coins yet? Metal coins are really nice. I don't have that many of them. And some of the ones I've seen have been fantastic. The quality is amazing. So do we have enough? I don't know. I mean, quality, they look really nice, and it's nice when they're themed to the game, but then they're quite expensive. But, you know, if you've got the money, then they're a nice addition. The ones from Scythe are really nice, and the ones from Zia, Legends of a Drift System, even though I hate the game, I think they're really nice as well. And a related sub-question, are we close to hitting the ceiling on price on Kickstarter? And what is the most you would personally see as reasonable to pay for a single game? And this is why I mentioned it earlier on, that somebody was asking me about prices. And in terms of what's the price that I would reasonably pay to see a game, it really depends on the game. Would I pay $130 for Cooper Island? No. Would I pay $130 for Cloudspire? Yes. Would I pay $500 for the entire Batman collection? No. But other people do. Different games appeal to different people. And the Batman one, for example, and Conan and things like that, if you're going to go all in, and Joan of Arc, you're buying into a massive game with dozens of boxes and hundreds of miniatures that you're going to spend 2 years painting. And, you know, that's a different game than, oh, here's a Euro game, right? So the price is different depending on the style of game. Prices have gone up recently. I know Maracaibo, a good game. It was €70. There were other games coming out that were €60, and I'm looking at them going, wow, you know, these, because pounds, that's probably like 55, 65 pounds. Games were 45 pounds only a couple of years ago. And suddenly the prices seems to have shot up. And as I mentioned at the start, I'm in the lucky position that because I work in the industry, a lot of the games that I get given. So I'm not having to buy them. If I was having to spend that amount of money on a game, I'd be having to think twice. But then again, if I looked at Cloudspire and gone, oh, that's £100, that's too expensive. What I didn't realise is the amount of content and playability that you get in that game. And I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have known about that beforehand, but I would have probably looked into it. Yeah, so the price that you pay, I can't say because it's different for everybody. Johnny Juju says, oh, this is great. I love this question. You're in a Turkish prison for teaching incorrect rules in a playthrough, and the warden has just given you a 60-day solitary confinement, but allows you to take one game with you as long as you play it every day. And for every day you don't play it, your time in solitary will increase by a week. What game would you take? Funny question. I like it. I like the fact that I've been arrested and put in a Turkish prison. Oh, hang on. Oh, that's Vicky. Where is she? That normally means she's leaving work. which means she's not going to be home for another hour. It's her last week of work. She's been there 15 years. Her last week of work. Anyway. So I'm in a Turkish prison, but this is the easiest question in the world because Mage Knight is my favourite game of all time, and Mage Knight is incredible solo. So I'll play Mage Knight every day. Easy. There you go. And Ian wants to know, have I ever been tempted to try and design a game myself? And that is a question which I could spend 30 minutes talking about. Yes, I have. I have spent many, many years of my life trying to design games. I was designing games back when I was 13, 14. I was designing role-playing games back then. I worked on a Transformers role-playing game. I say worked on. I had like 2 pages of notes. I was 13. I have been wanting to design games, and I have had ideas of games going around in my head literally for decades. No word of a lie. Some of the games that I have in my head right now have been there for 5 years, 10 years. One of them has been there for 15 years. One of them has been there for longer. I was working on a card game based on Dungeons & Dragons in the mid-90s, which was a little bit like a collectible card game, but you each had a party of adventurers and you played. Yeah, I've had so many ideas out there. And one of the things is, it really annoyed me. And it was a monkey on my back for a long, long time. And I would be putting time into it, trying to design games. Over the last 5 years, I have realised that's not for me. I'm not a designer. I mean, technically I am, because I designed the last 2 Mage Knight expansions. But I'm not really. I'm a developer. I will take games and I will develop them. And I will play them and I will work with people like Vital Lacerda and Vlaja and other games designers who I respect and admire. And I will be working with them and I'll be saying, this bit doesn't feel quite right. And this bit felt a bit overpowered. And this bit's a little counterintuitive, and this bit's causing downtime in the game, and I will work with them. And I am very happy about that. I am very happy that there are some games out there, like Codenames, like Letterjam, like Zolkin, like On Mars, which I've had a part of. I've had a part in the development of that game. Some small, some quite big. But I've been involved in those games as a developer, and that makes me very happy. And since I've been involved in development work, I no longer feel the urge and this desperate nagging feeling that I need to design a game. Of course, I'd love to if given the time, but yeah, don't have the time. Oh, the Facebook chat is working, and Ian Hayward is in there. He obviously heard us talking about him and turned up. He has American football games that will teach you about it. Yes. Pay Dirt, Stacey's Pro. Yeah, Pay Dirt. I remember that. The BGG thread, yeah, guild number 2258. Talk to me on Slack and I will tell you how the BGG guilds work. They're a little bit fiddly. I know when I first started using them, I didn't fully understand it and I wasn't getting any notifications or messages. You need to subscribe as well. Right, that is it for all of the questions that I got asked in advance. I am going to now flip over back to the live chat. We're at about an hour and a half. I mean, we started 15 minutes late because I was having technical difficulties. I will go back to XSplit again. I'm really not happy with... Anyway, try not to get too angry. Any other questions in the chat? Oh gosh, yes. Kitty went away. Ah, yeah. Ah, there you go. Let's wiggle the mouse. Did you enjoy being able to spend more time playing games at HandyCon? Yes. So part of my New Year's resolution, it's not New Year's resolution, it's part of my trying to get my life back on track, is when I attend smaller conventions, so not your Essens or your Gen Cons or whatever, but things like HandyCon. I would, in previous years, I would be running 2 tables at once. I'd be demoing 2 different games at once, you know, and flipping between the 2, and I'd be doing that for like 10 hours a day. Because I'd be taking on so much work in order for me, for me to feel it was justified for me to go to these events. I'm not going to get into the whole psychology of it because, I mean, yeah, you need to be my therapist to fully understand why I was doing that. But this year's HandyCon, I worked for 25% of the time. Either 25 or 30% of the time was work. The rest of the time was me playing games with friends and patron supporters, and it was brilliant. And I loved it, and I had a great time. Yeah, it was an expense because only a small part of it was actually paid for by publishers. Obviously, I didn't come away for it. It cost me money for the weekend, But that's fine, and I need to get that into my head that that's okay, and I did, and I'm hoping to do that more in future. So yes, it was great, and I really enjoyed it. John says, do I play Sonic games 4 times? No, John, no. I haven't played any of the Sonic games. How old am I? Well, how old do you think I am? Because I don't think I look as old as I actually am. But if I was to say to you that where are we now? 4th of February. So in less than 5 months' time, I am going to be 50 years old, and that scares the living daylights out of me. So yeah, I'm going to be 50 this year. So I'm currently 49, and I know, yeah, I don't look it. All of the people in the chat are saying I don't look 49. No, they don't. Yeah, Space Race, not Space Base. Yeah, we covered that. Space Race. So Kim says, I do like during your sponsored videos, you do not gush over the game. You are precise and clear with info and show playing components to help the viewers gauge how great yeah, thank you for that, Kim. But again, because it's a sponsored video, giving a personal opinion on the game, you shouldn't do that, really. That feels wrong. I mean, I know some people do, and they will say, oh yeah, this game was great, and go out and buy it, whatever, and it's a sponsored video. You're being paid. That feels wrong. So yeah, on the sponsored videos, I really try to restrict giving my personal opinions on the game, even if I'm really enjoying the game. I don't want that to be known, really. Leanne is saying small footprint games for the person that asked for them. Yes, the Pack of Gum series, Coup, Palm Island, Maiden's Quest, Double. I think do you mean Double? Zombie Dice, don't play Zombie Dice, it's terrible. Pass the Pandas, okay, right, there we go. If you try any console games, try Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, epic laid-back RPG puzzle game. Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's a PC version of them, because I don't have a console. Everybody's talking about Nintendo Switches at the moment. Yeah, it's not my bag, I don't really do that kind of thing. And Radisson says, just subscribed on Patreon. Thank you very much for your support. Kitty went away. Kitty is back. Freya Ken only just got here. That's fine. You can rewind and watch all of the other stuff if you want to. Leanne says, thank you very much for the Crystal Palace video. It was a good refresher. Good. Yeah, I enjoyed that. And I think we did a fairly good job at the teach, except for that rule that we missed, that we didn't actually know about until it happened. Caroline saying, would you recommend any specific Vital Lacerda game to start with because you've not played any of them? Well, if you go online and you ask people which is the lightest Vital Lacerda game, that doesn't mean it's light, okay? Even the lightest Vital Lacerda game is still very heavy. I would go with the one which the theme suits you more. If you love the idea of colonising Mars, go with On Mars. But it is possibly one of his heaviest games, if not his heaviest, most complex game. If you like the fact that you're rebuilding Lisboa in the 15th century after the disaster, and you're getting stone and brick and building up shops and things like that, then go for that one. If you like the fact that you're all criminals on the run because you've robbed a bank and you're trying to escape and the cops are onto you, get Escape Plan. If you like the idea of growing wine in Portugal, get that. You know, it really depends on the theme. Pick the one you want. And then at the next convention we're at, I will sit down and I will teach you how to play, because it is a game which is best taught, because they are super complex, and you're going to, you know, people have played their first game of a Vital Lacerda game has been 5 or 6 hours, and that's not including the rules to learn, because they're just super heavy. Related to AI, how do you feel about app-driven board games? I don't have that much of a problem with them that others do. I really enjoy the app in the Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth game. I think that's fine, and I think it adds to the atmosphere, and they've done a really good job with the app. So I don't have a problem with apps in board games. Scott saying Vinhos Deluxe 2016. Yeah, I mean, I do like Vinhos Deluxe. Gallerist, oh yeah, if you like the idea of collecting art in an art gallery, then there's the Gallerist. And Charlie's saying that she likes the Arkham Horror playthroughs. Excellent. I'm glad you're enjoying them. More coming soon. I think next Tuesday. Yeah, I think next Tuesday we're doing Arkham Horror Are you recognised on the street? Are you a celebrity? Good question. So I'm not recognised on the general walking around the street, but I do get recognised at games conventions or in airports and train stations at games conventions. So leaving Gen Con or Tabletop Gaming Live or in the airport after Essen and things like that, I do get recognised because I'm on TV and a lot of people have watched a lot of my videos. So I do get recognised that. Am I a celebrity is a good question because I don't think I am at all. I don't want to be a celebrity. I don't think I'm a celebrity, and it makes me a little uncomfortable when some people think I'm a celebrity. The reason it makes me uncomfortable is I'm just Paul. I'm just a guy who's passionate about board games, has managed to turn a hobby into a living, and I want to produce videos for people to watch, right? I don't want to be a celebrity, and I don't think I am a celebrity. But some people have said, oh yeah, I saw you at such a convention, but I was too nervous. I didn't want to come up and say hello. And I'm like, nervous? Why are you nervous about speaking to me? I'm just a guy. Come and say hello. But then when they start saying, oh, well, you've got people like, Tom Vassell, Rodney Smith, Quinns from Shut Up and Sit Down, Richard Hamm from Rado Runs Through, all of those people. Are they celebrities? And I'm like, well, yeah. And they go, gotcha. And I'm like, what? Now, I'm not saying I'm as big as them. I'm nowhere near as big as them. But it's true that I'm in the same category. I am a content creator creating board game content. I am in the same category. So I now understand why some people think that I'm a celebrity and might be nervous about coming and speaking to me. But I'm not. I'm really not. Just come and say hello. Bring me some cookies or fruit or biscuits or Jaffa cakes or whatever if you need an icebreaker. Right. Next. Don't go straight in with Lisboa and on Mars. Yeah, unless I'm teaching you. If I'm teaching you, you'll be fine with both of them. We'll play for an hour and a half and then you can decide whether you want to like it or not. Rick says I haven't answered his one yet. Well, if it arrived after the cut-off point, it'll have to wait till next time, I'm afraid. Hero Quest Fury of Dracula, Snowdonia, June. I don't know what these questions are for. There's just random games appearing in the list now. How many games do you have in your personal collection? Well, the thing is, with BGG, I've got an itchy nose. What does that mean? If you've got an itchy nose, it means something. I don't know. Anyway, BGG classes every expansion that I've got as an individual game. So Arkham Horror, the living card game, that's like 40 games in my collection. 40 of the games in my collection are all Arkham Horror, the living card game, but I feel that that's just one game. I don't actually know what my BGG collection is, and it's not up to date. Yeah, I really need to go through it. At some point, I am going to go through it. But if I now go to my collection on BGG, and the really bad thing about it is you've got to filter out games that you don't own. Because it's really annoying, but the collection on BGG defaults to games that you've given a rating for. And I'm like, no. Show me games that I own. It's my collection. Right, so according to this, BGG says that I own 746 games. That's probably about right. It's probably around that. There are some that I have received recently that aren't on the list, and there are probably some that I've got rid of which I forgot to get rid of the list, but it's probably about 750. They're dotted around the house. Where's that gone? That's gone there. Right, okay. How did you like Trismegistus? Trismegistus, I think, is a good game. I've spoken about this before a few times. I think it's a good game. I think the problem is the rulebook was awful, the graphic design was terrible, the iconography was counterintuitive. It made the game harder to learn and less enjoyable to play than it could or should have been. It is a good game, but unfortunately those things let it down, and that I can't distance myself from those problems because those problems are inherent to the amount of enjoyment that you'll have from playing the game. But it is a good game. It's just, it felt a little too fiddly in places with there's this and you get a bonus because you've taken it from a space, and you get the bonuses because you've put it on a space, and it's got a bonus on it which you can get from flipping it over, and because you put it in that line you get another bonus. I like the game, it's just, yeah, it was let down production wise with a few things. What does a first edition June go for these days? I'm not sure. And Paul Bryant says that he's played at least one of Paul Grogan's designs. Yes, I have actually designed a game once. It's not been published, to the point where it's a full game and it could be played. It just wasn't that good. And you say you'll look, and Oli Brom says you'd love to do a game of Mage Knight with you. Who brings it to Essen? I'd love to, but I don't have much time at Essen, unfortunately, for stuff. Transformers RPG, let's do it. Yes. Right, what we've got. FFG stream about new Champions hero starts in about 20 minutes. Yeah, I'm going to wrap up soon. There was a live tutorial and playthrough of Mage Knight. Yep, there definitely was. Gareth Graham, greetings from Cape Town. Hello, thank you for joining in. D1C3 Han says, do you own many games and also have a big pile of shame? So I've just mentioned how many games I've got in my collection. I don't like to think of it as a pile of shame, but a pile of opportunity. And I probably have about 20 games in my pile of opportunity that I haven't got through to yet. Yeah. Itchy Nose means somebody's talking about you. I thought that was burning ears. I thought ears were burning means somebody's talking about you. But if that's itchy nose as well it stopped itching now. So, and Scott says you can filter out expansions to get a count of base games only. Oh, I didn't realise that. Well, let's go to filters. Where is it? Item includes board games. Oh, and excludes board games expansions. Aha! Right, apply filters. So the new total is 514. Wow, that's a lot lower. 514 is what BGG says as the games which I own, not including expansions. I want that to be my default search, really. How would you rank Lacerda games compared to each other? It's tricky. It really is tricky. The original version of CO2 I really didn't like at all. Problems with the rulebook, problems with the graphic design, problems with the publisher, and I don't like semi-cooperative games. I'm not saying that the Gallerist isn't a good game, but if I was to put Gallerist, Vinhos, Kanban, Lisboa and On Mars, Kanban, Gallerist, Lisboa, Vinhos, On Mars, Escape Plan, Gallerist would probably be at the bottom, maybe. Not sure. I've not played it in a while. Possibly with Escape Plan. Then possibly Kanban and Lisboa. Then probably Vinhos and On Mars at the top. But those top four are in a state of flux. It really depends. You know, I might play Gallerist again and suddenly really like it. And it's not that I don't like it. It's just if you're going to force me to rate them in order, that's the order I'm sort of going to put them in. If you would rate your best 2-player and 3-player competitive and cooperative games, which would it be? I'm afraid with the time that we have, I really would need more time to think about that answer. I can't give you a top answer right now. But again, it's a thing to go onto my BGG guild. I also don't have a top 5 or top 10 of all time. What I do have, and I'm going to be doing this next week, is my top 5 games of 2018. Yes, you heard that right. 2018, my top games of 2018. I will be doing that next week. I mean, I think Through the Ages is a masterpiece of a game, and Mage Knight is a masterpiece of a game. Both of those games are very high up there. And Mage Knight can be played cooperatively as well. I think Spirit Island is fantastic as a cooperative game. So there's some great ones. A good project manager would help with time management challenges. Yes. And what do you think of small games, says Michelle Turner, like Circle the Wagons? I don't know. I have come across the name. At some point this afternoon, I came across the name Circle the Wagons and can't remember why. Let's go back to the Facebook chat. What have we got on the Facebook chat? Is it going to scroll? Yes, it is going to scroll. Quick advice, would I recommend Sanctum? There's no way I can answer that question. CGE are a client. I was a developer on the game and I was paid to work on the rulebook. Well, actually not the rulebook, and do a how to play video. So all I can recommend is that you read reviews from other reviewers. I'm not ever going to do a review of it. I'm not going to give my personal opinion on the game. I've done the how to play video for it. So hopefully you can make a decision yourself about it, but I can't recommend it or not recommend it because I was professionally involved in the game. You've also said that you're a celebrity to me. I'm a celebrity to you. Well, thank you very much. Toby saying Button Shy Games, circle the wagons. I haven't actually played anything from Button Shy Games, I don't think. I know they reached out to me about doing some coverage for their games, but because I was based in the UK, it wasn't going to be possible or something like that. I can't quite remember how, but I do remember having a conversation with them. Anyway, this is about time to start wrapping things up because it is 5 to 7 and I'm exhausted. Last chance, send me an email now. paul.grogan@outlook.com. Say the word grapes and I will enter you into the contest to win £25 worth of games vouchers from Games Law. If you are a patron supporter, please pop that in the message as well. And yeah, as I said at the start, thank you very much to all of my patron supporters who make this kind of video possible. A lot of people are watching this live who are patron supporters. If you're not a patron supporter, then yeah, a lot of the content that I make is not paid for. It's only funded through the Patreon campaign. Buying all of the equipment, taking the time out to do all of those playthrough videos, it's all funded through Patreon. So if you like the content that I make, please consider supporting me over on Patreon. Be most appreciated. Other than that, there are still some questions coming in the chat, but I'm going to wrap things up here. Final shout out to the BGG Guild. If you want me to tell you more about the BGG Guild and how it works, just drop me a message on any form of social media and I'll explain how it all works. But yeah, more activity on the BGG Guild would be great. And with that, I'm off to do some more painting after dinner, watch the first 2 episodes of Picard, and then I'll come back tomorrow with the Maracaibo review, which I'll probably make live on Thursday actually. And tomorrow at 5 o'clock, King Arthur's Vortex Chess live tutorial and playthrough. It's only going to take about 3/4 of an hour or so, but that's 5 o'clock tomorrow. The game is going on Kickstarter and I'm doing a live tutorial and playthrough of it tomorrow. So thank you very much to everybody for joining in. It's probably been the busiest live stream we've had in terms of number of people in the chat, and that makes me feel really good. So thank you very much for that. Thank you for making me happy. I'm going to switch over to the end scene now and see if it works. Who knows? It might do, it might not. See you next time.
Gaming Rules is proudly sponsored by Game Toppers, upgrading your gaming experience. Visit GameToppersLLC.com.